Many Canadians put their trust in the media to get fair, balanced, and factual news. But a growing number of Canadians are discovering their trust in the mainstream media is wavering. Joining me today is Anita Krishna. She has 20 years experience working with City TV, CTV, and Global. She says she was terminated from her newscast director position at Global Vancouver when she began questioning the COVID-19 narrative that was being spread. She joins me now from Vancouver. Anita, welcome to Bridge City News.
Hi, Naveen. How are you?
Great to have you on today. So first question, Anita, you say that in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic really started to take off and change our lives, there was an untruthful narrative in the media. So before we get into the specifics of your time at Global, can you just tell us what you were observing? Did you feel that mainstream media news was slanted in a certain way, or was there bias?
Well, I would say that when COVID first hit, I wouldn't say that I realized that we were being untruthful then per se. It just felt like everything was coming so fast and furious, right? Why were we saying, okay, self-isolate, lock down, don't travel, extend spring break, keep your kids at home, kids are getting this. We were starting to say flatten the curve, social distance. We were starting to say all those things without evolving into that. Those kinds of things take time to evolve. All catchphrases and things like that don't come out of the gate day one. Why did it come out of the gate day one? That's what made me question it. Wow, it's almost like, I'm not saying this is what happened, but it's almost like the script was written. Was the script already written? And news doesn't go like that. News evolves, and over time, so that's what it felt like to me. It was like, boy, oh boy, every big institution, airline, like I've talked about before, sports teams, schools, public gatherings, bang, 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 all made measures out the gate. And that felt unnatural to me.
Now, in a video that is posted on your website, anitakrishna.com, from February of 2022, you spoke at a rally in Vancouver. You said, quote, "I think the most misinformation that has ever been spread in the past 2 years has come from mainstream media," end quote. But then you said that your heart was broken. Tell us, what was brewing in your conscience, and what was your reaction to the news being covered in the way that it was?
Well, all the misinformation. I mean, how dare anybody accuse us of spreading, or people who are just trying to find another side, of spreading misinformation, when it was the mainstream news that avoided talking about medications. If you really care about our health, you would say, hey, there are some medications that have been studied and they are viable treatments. You don't then care about my health if you're hiding that from me. Also, if doctors are being banned and their licenses are being suspended, which we all well know that has happened to doctors who tried to prescribe these medications, which I won't name, why did the news not report that? Why did the news keep you shut in your house without getting vitamin D and exercise? That's what keeps you healthy. You know what else keeps you healthy? Going to your AA meetings so you don't relapse. Going to church so you have spiritual gatherings. Masking. 3 years in, you expect me to wear a mask on my face? You got to be out of your mind. So all these measures were driving misinformation, clear as day. You didn't fix the problem. You're getting people to have 2-3 jabs and they're still wearing a mask. Do you think we're a bunch of fools? You want to make fools out of us. So you are the spreaders of misinformation, trying to oppress real information. That is my opinion. That's what I saw that went on. The reason that I was heartbroken over that is because I worked with people for 20 years who I considered friends and family. And all around me in my life, I'm hearing people ending up in wheelchairs post this certain treatment. My own family was affected. People have died in my family from this. People have been paralyzed. I can tell you story after story of people who are injured from one of these things, and they are mandated to then take the second one, even though they nearly died from the first one. And then they're fired from their jobs because they didn't take the second one. So where is the humanity? Where is the heart? And how can people I work with advocate for this and think that this is okay to throw healthcare workers out on their behinds with no pay? That's why I was heartbroken, that everybody lost their morals.
And you said that alarms were going off for you because all this news was coming out very quickly and it wasn't really developing, and it was just coming too fast. And you said that you didn't speak up for much of 2020 because you knew that if you did, you would get into trouble. So what caused you to eventually speak up?
Well, you did get into trouble. You kind of knew how everybody felt. You could feel it all around you. It was as everybody, every human being can feel how it has become. So you kind of just, you're just looking and trying to say little things in dribs and drabs to your friends quietly to gauge how people are feeling. Some people are with you, some people are not with you. But I just couldn't take it anymore. Like the towards the end of 2020, I just couldn't take coming for children, and I couldn't take coming for pregnant women. Those were the two things. And also, you have to be devoid of any heart whatsoever if you think it's okay to treat elderly people the way we did. They were the first people that we isolated, and we were saying the elderly they need to isolate the most. Well, that's extremely damaging. So every vulnerable group, elderly, children, pregnant, it's like we were coming for them. And so to me, this was not like a little vanilla thing. Oh, ha ha, we did something sneaky and bad. This was like really, the harms to me were outrageous. And that's why I started speaking up and going to rallies and getting in trouble, that type of thing.
And many of us have heard about those who have recovered from symptoms by taking medications that weren't officially sanctioned by health authorities, and and some of them are people that are known to us. So wouldn't that be something that would be newsworthy and worth investigating into?
Absolutely. Of course it is. If you don't tell the public, there are certain doctors prescribing medication and healing people, and they're getting their license suspended. That's why your average neighbor and man on the street doesn't know. That's the job of the news, to inform them of all the other things that are going on. And to have like a total media blackout on information that the public needs to know, it's terrible.
Now, when you did speak up, how did your leaders and coworkers respond to your concerns and the news story ideas about people recovering or the possibility or increased numbers of miscarriages that you were talking about?
Oh, they just completely dismissed me. They just thought that there was only one answer. Well, I was completely disregarded, bullied, and suspended. No, I was not given any. They treat you like a crazy person, and to shut up, immediately shut up, or they just wave you with dismissal, or they go like that, or I would get emails from my boss saying I needed to stop talking about COVID. Well, that's the whole business. That was the whole name of the game for 2.5 years. They're the ones talking about COVID. That's the driving the whole newscast. So don't tell me to stop talking about that. And that's what they did.
And then you were eventually ousted from your position as a control room director. What was the official reason behind your termination?
It's such a namby-pamby reason. It's just like, well, they said to me, breach of, or sorry, they didn't like, I wasn't wearing the mask properly. That was one of the things. And then it's just unsatisfactory behavior in the workplace. Oh yeah, the breach of mask wearing rules. Because it was like dangling and I was drinking water in a room that, like, how am I supposed to drink the water? And somebody walked by and snitched on me. So now we have snitches. I've told this story before, but the room that I was in was a room, one other guy 10 feet away, and a wall of plexiglass. I'm not talking a little screen of plexiglass. I'm talking a wall. If my mask is on my chin, that's why they threw me out that day for that. So it's important people know, like, what a bunch of bullies they were. They also they said that I violated journalistic practices and principles, but they never told me how. And they also said that, they didn't like me going to the rally. Just an investigation was held to your involvement at a rally. But then what's the problem? Like all these three things that they threw me out the door for, these are unfounded rubbish things, in my opinion.
Well, how dare you remove your mask to drink some water? Like, come on.
Dare I know. We should have cut a hole and used a straw. I think that's what they wanted me to do. But
No, Anita, I was one of the few people from Bridge City News selected to travel to Ottawa to cover the Freedom Convoy in early 2022. And the first thing I witnessed was this Canadian love being spread. I saw people dancing, hugging, they were handing out hot chocolate and warm clothes and food. And what I saw in Ottawa was really the opposite to what I had seen on the mainstream media before I went out there. So when I went out there, the only instructions that we were given were just to walk around and report on what we saw, like be journalists. But it seems as if the MSN journalists were in larger markets were given directives because it looked like they were either looking for negatives or trying to skew the events that took place in a seemingly misleading way. Can you touch on this? Is this something that usually happens?
well, you're absolutely right. I mean, anybody that went to the convoy saw what you just described: love, unity, happiness, hope, family, right? What we saw on the news was, oh, the truckers have desecrated the Terry Fox Memorial. Oh, these, wild insurgents are it's an illegal blockade. Every description, every visual. I know for a fact, like on Global National, their editors shot by shot, sometimes a producer will shot list shots they want them to use in the story. They particularly do that on that show. Other shows, they let the editor just kind of pick the shots. But it was just like every shot, you're going to show people looking like rough, violent bullies or something. It was all deliberate. Why it was deliberate, that part I cannot explain, right? Because I'm not privy to what the editorial diktats are. And I never was aware of anything like that before. But there was certainly a narrative to make these guys look like litter, that they peed on things, that they were throwing litter, that they were ne'er-do-wells, when that's not what it was. And it was such a stretch, like, oh, there's one Confederate flag. Oh, please, as if please, and completely disregarding the sea of people that were out there protesting against these mandates. Never in my entire life have I seen a protest covered this way by news ever. And it was to shape bias. It was actually one of the most disappointing things I've ever seen.
I'm glad you mentioned the Confederate flag and the Terry Fox Memorial because when in my 2.5 weeks there, like no one had ever seen a Confederate flag, and then a lot of our energy was spent debunking what the mainstream media was reporting. And so I made sure to get B-roll of the Terry Fox Memorial, which was surrounded by flowers. But another thing I noticed during the Freedom Convoy and other events across Canada was the outspoken distrust of the mainstream media. And for the first time for me, it felt like the independent news outlets and citizen journalists were the trusted purveyors of information during that time. Is this something new, or do you feel that there's a shift in public opinion on mainstream media versus citizen journalism?
Yeah, well, I would say if you talk to someone in the supermarket, you talk to your neighbors, you talk to your friends, the trust is waning very quickly for mainstream media if it hasn't just completely been destroyed already. Not everyone is clued in on that. But now more and more and more, I just think, they were losing ground well before all this because so many people were cutting cable because of the internet and stuff. So a lot of people, but I mean, things are more app. You can just get an app and they're app based now. But trust is gone. And I think people are starting to accept this citizen journalist. I mean, a lot of people, my brain doesn't work like this, but a lot of people stand there with their iPhone and go live. My brain works in like television setup. So I probably need to be doing more live. I have to get with the new school instead of like the old school. But people are watching citizen journalism. They're watching, even if it's not polished, fancy, edited with all the whiz bang of a news show, people are watching it because they want that truth. So you're right. People are losing trust very rapidly.
Now, circling back to the National Citizens Inquiry, what kind of reaction did you receive from the public? Was it positive, negative?
It was, I would say, 95% positive. There was really, I don't get any comments when I read the comments, because I do go and try to read all the comments. I don't receive any comments of, to me, it's 95% positive. Sometimes you get people saying, "Oh, why didn't you speak up before? You should have said something before." Well, when I saw something, I said something. Like, I did it in the time that I did it. If that's unsatisfactory to you, I don't really care. You're not walking in my shoes. And sometimes I've read a comment where somebody said, "Oh, she should be hung." Also, like stuff like that, where you're like, "Whoa, okay, all right, okay, I can't deal with the crazy. You crazy, right?" So I for every one or two negative comments, it's 95% positive. So that tells me something.
And what do you feel Canadians can learn from the testimonies that were heard at the NCI?
First of all, I wish more Canadians would watch all the testimony. That'll, like, what Canadians have been through is staggering. Staggering. Some people have lost everything: children, businesses, families, mothers, and they were brutalized. Some people weren't allowed to say goodbye to their loved ones in the hospital. Like, I would encourage everybody to watch and see the testimony of normal Canadians, and also see the experts that were brought on, like Catherine Austin Fitz, Edward Dowd, Dr. Hoff, Dr. Malthouse, Nagase, all of them, Stephen Pellick, all these, if you know nothing, you need to now start watching some of that testimony and learn what's been happening in Canada.
And those names you've mentioned, we've had many of those names on our show before, and they've got us strikes on some streaming platforms, so it's not a secret that the media is also being censored too. But we're just about out of time. I wanted to do one quick thing for you. You also have a podcast. So in our last few moments, just tell us a little bit about it and where our viewers can go to check it out.
I will say this: I was looking for answers so hard. Like, I'm not a journalist, but I am now. I know how to do it, right? But I started to do a podcast just to find out information, and I named it a really weird name, because I wouldn't get in trouble. That didn't work out. But anyway, my on Rumble, you can find me on AK Straight Speaks. If you type that in, you'll find me. On YouTube, it's Anita K, and then I do have a website, anitakrishna.com, and I write some Substack articles and stuff as well. So I'm doing a lot of different things. So I hope that people will come and check me out and see what I'm doing. I'm not as fast. I can't do something every day because I have a family and other work I have to do, but I do my best. Yeah.
Anita Krishna is a former newscast director, now mainstream media whistleblower and podcaster. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me.